Question 1c shows us this diagram here and asks us to find angle 1 and angle 2. So the first thing we want to do is look at this large triangle here. And we know that all the angles in a triangle have to add up to 180 degrees. So we have one angle here of 30 degrees, one of 80, and this one we don't know. So 180 degrees minus 80 minus 30 equals 70 degrees. And that means that this whole angle here is 70 degrees. And we've been told that this line comes and splits this angle exactly in two because these two angles have a nick through them, so that means that they're equal to each other. So 70 degrees divided by 2 is 35 degrees. And that means that each of these angles here is equal to 35 degrees. And so now we can look at this situation here and notice that we have a straight line. And these three angles make up this straight line. And we know that to get a straight line, it's 180 degrees. So these three angles should equal 180 degrees. So if we do 180 minus 75 minus 80, we end up with 25 degrees. And that means that this little angle here is 25 degrees. Okay, so now let's look at what we have here with this kind of, this triangle here. I'm just going to try to redraw that to make it a little bit easier to see on its own. Sorry, it's kind of a bad drawing, but this is this triangle here, where this angle down here is 35 degrees, and this angle here is 80 degrees plus 25 degrees, which is 105 degrees. So now we can figure out this last angle, knowing that all the angles have to add up to 180. So 180 minus 105 minus 35 is 40 degrees. So that means that this angle up here is 40 degrees. So now we can see that we have a straight line here, and one angle is 40 degrees, and another angle is angle 2 that we're trying to find. So those two angles should add up to 180 degrees because a line is 180. So if we do 180 minus 40, we get 140, and that means that this angle here is 140 degrees. So we found angle 2. It's 140 degrees. For angle 1, we can see that we have this small triangle here, where one angle is 40 degrees, one angle is 25, and one angle is angle 1 that we don't know. So 180 degrees minus 40 degrees minus 25 degrees gives us 115 degrees. So that means that this angle here is 115 degrees. So we found angle 1, and it's 115 degrees. And angle 2 is 140 degrees. And if you've looked at the answer key for this question, I believe the answers are different for angle 1 and 2, but these are the right answers. You can see how we got them here just by recognizing that all the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees, and angles on a line add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so moving on to part I of this question. So in this case, we've been told that this angle is x plus 2y, this angle is x minus 8y, and this angle is y plus 106. So what we can do to answer this question is come up with some equations based on what we know about intersecting lines. So what we know is that angles across from each other, such as these two, have to be equal. And also angles next to each other, like these two or these two, because they make up a straight line, have to add up to 180 degrees. So one equation we can come up with is that this angle, or x plus 2y, has to equal this angle, or y plus 106. Okay, and another equation we can come up with is that x minus 8y, this angle here, plus y plus 106, this angle here, have to add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is, so what we have here, I should say, is that we have two equations and two unknowns. So we can solve this for x and y now. So first thing I want to do is go to this equation, and I'm going to combine like terms and solve for one of my variables. So I'm going to subtract y on both sides of my equation. It gives me x plus y equals 106. And I think I'm going to solve for y now in this case, but you can do it either way. You should still get the same answers for the two variables. So I'm going to subtract x on both sides so that I get y equals 106, oops, lost my 1 there, minus x. Okay, and now this equation, I'm going to do the same thing and combine like terms. So I have a negative 8y plus y. So that gives me a negative 7y. I have plus 106 equals 180. Now I'm going to subtract 106 on both sides of my equation. So x minus 7y, 180 minus 106 is 74. And now what I want to do is plug in this expression for y in terms of x and for y here. So this gives me x minus 7 times 106 minus x equals 74. I'm just plugging this expression of y in here. And now I can solve for x. Negative 7 times 106 is negative 742. Negative 7 times negative x is plus 7x. Okay, x plus 7x is 8x. I'm going to add 742 on both sides of my equation. I get 8x is equal to 74 plus 742 is 816. Dividing by 8 on both sides gives me x is equal to 102. So now I can take this this value of x, and plug it in here to solve for y. So I have 106 minus 102 gives me y is equal to 4. Okay, so a good thing to do at this step is to check these answers, and how we can do that is by recognizing that these two angles should add up to 180 degrees as well. So we can plug in our values for x and y in these cases, make sure those add up to 180 degrees. I'm going to skip that for now because it does work out. And so our answers here, x is equal to 102 degrees and y is equal to 4 degrees. Answer this question. Again, in the answer key, I think the answers are different than this, and I think these are the right answers for part I. But you feel free to check the answer key. If you plug in those answers for these values, you'll see that it doesn't work out. Part Z is asking us to solve for x and y in this diagram. So the first thing we can do is figure out what this angle is up here. And we know that angles in a triangle have to add up to 180 degrees. And so 180 minus 90 minus 30 gives us 60 degrees. So this angle here is 60 degrees. And that also works out because we know we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle that was given in the question. And so we can use this now to figure out one of our sides, because the triangle we've been given in the question looks something like this, where we have one angle of 90 degrees, one of 60, and one of 30. And we've been given the sides that they are 1, square root of 3, and 2. we can see that in our triangle here, we have the same angles, but this side here is 2. So what we have here are similar triangles. And so this means that we can come up with ratios for the sides, because all the sides should correspond with the same ratio. So this side here corresponds with this one in our large triangle. So we can say that 1 over 2, this side over this side, should equal 2 over y, this side over this side. Okay, and so now you can just cross multiply. 1 times y is y, 2 times 2 is 4, and we get that y is equal to 4. Put that up here. Okay, so now we want to find x, and x is this short side here. So first what we should do is figure out what this whole side of the triangle is. So I'm going to say that this long side here is the variable a, just for figuring this part out. So we can do the same thing we did with this 60, 30, 90 triangle and say that 1 over 2, this side over this side, should equal root 3 over a. Okay, so cross multiplying again, I get a is equal to 2 times root 3. Okay, I'm going to leave that as 2 root 3 because that doesn't simplify any further. And now I want to look at this small triangle in here. And we can see in our question, we've been shown that and we know that since the angles in a triangle have to add up to 180 degrees, that this last angle up here is equal to 45 degrees. There, and that's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So again, in our question, we've been shown one of these triangles where one angle is 90 degrees, one's 45, and the other one's 45. And in our question, we've been told that one side is 1, another side is 1, and this hypotenuse is root 2. So again, we have similar triangles here because our angles are all the same. And so we can set up another ratio where if we call this side, the short one, b, we can set up a ratio where 1 over 2, this side over this side, equals 1 over b. So of course, cross multiplying here, we're going to get that b is equal to 2. And so we can express x as this side a minus b. So we say x is equal to a minus b. And we found a is equal to 2 root 3 and b is equal to 2. So x is equal to 2 root 3 minus 2. And that's as much as we can simplify that. So we'll write that as our answer. X is equal to 2 times root 3 minus 2. So those are the answers to part Z of question 1.